The whole reason for founding SpaceX was to make humanity a multi-planetary species. And this was partly motivated by existential threats, like a third world war or a random asteroid plummeting towards Earth. Settling on other planets or the moon would definitely allow for the survival of our species. But it's not as easy as packing up our stuff and immigrating to another country. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, has made his vision with Mars very clear. He wants cities on the red planet. The settlements would need large numbers of people to become self-sustaining. To do that, we need a vehicle that can handle the task. And the Starship rocket is the one for the job. It's a combination of a rocket and a spacecraft that could ferry more than 100 people at a time to Mars. But does it really need to be that gigantic? Welcome back to our channel. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified every time we upload a video. At launch, the spacecraft called Starship will sit on top of a rocket called Super Heavy. Yeah, they could have gone further with the name, but the combined system will stand at 120 meters, or 394 feet. For some context, that's taller than the Statue of Liberty, which reaches 93 meters, or 305 feet. The structure is about as tall as a 30-story building. The whole system together, that is, the spacecraft and the rocket, is called Starship. But it's not all about height. If the vehicle is to accommodate 100 people, it has to be wide enough too. It is 9 meters or 30 feet in diameter, which is about as wide as most apartments, assuming you don't live in a penthouse. It was designed to have a payload of 100 tons because, after all, this Starship is designed to carry people and cargo to Mars and launch satellites to the lower Earth orbit. But the satellite missions are mostly a side quest. The main aim is to deliver enough materials and people to Mars to start building a civilization there. Let's look at the spacecraft first. It has a nose cone and landing fins, and it seems the developers took their inspiration from older sci-fi comic books. At the rear of the 50-meter-long craft are 6 Raptor engines, developed over the course of 10 years by SpaceX. Combustion takes place in stages, and the engine's efficient design cuts the amount of propellant that's wasted. Speaking of waste, Starship is designed to be fully reusable, meaning the principal hardware elements don't get thrown into the sea or burnt up, which is usually the case in other launch systems. They can be recovered and then be refurbished and flown again, reducing expenses for SpaceX. Towards the middle of the vehicle are the propellant tanks, which feed methalox to the Raptors. Methalox is a combination of liquid nitrogen and liquid oxygen. Methane is the fuel, and the oxygen acts as an oxidizer, a chemical that makes the fuel burn. Typically, rockets don't use methalox for fuel, but methane can generate plenty of thrust, and it can be synthesized from Martian subsurface water and from the atmospheric carbon dioxide using a Sabatier reaction. That means Starship can be easily refueled on Mars for the return trip to Earth. That would essentially be the first step to making Mars self-sufficient. The front of the spacecraft, which is often called the upper stage, contains the huge payload compartment that will haul large cargo or carry people to their destination. Now let's talk about the rocket, the Super Heavy. It measures 70 meters or 230 feet and will be filled with 6.8 million pounds of cryogenic methalox. It will be powered by 28 Raptor engines, providing a whopping 16 million pounds of maximum thrust. It should be able to lift at least 100 tons of payload and possibly 150 tons to the low Earth orbit. If we compare this to other rockets we have sent to space, everything else pretty much pales in comparison. The legendary Saturn V stands at 110 meters. NASA's SLS Block 2 cargo stands at 111 meters, and Starship trumps both of them in height, payload, and specifications. Long-haul trips to Mars and back will take 9 months each way, which means you're going to need plenty of entertainment aboard. Along with the 40 cabins, which will be in the payload area, there will be common rooms, a galley, a shelter from where you can watch solar storms, a theater, and a lecture hall. Each cabin could room 5 or 6 people if you don't mind a small crowd. If not, then 2 to 3 people can share this space comfortably. In 2017, Elon Musk revealed his bigger plan for Mars, to get 1 million people to the red planet for colonization. And to carry those many people plus enough food and materials to sustain them on the red planet, you're going to need a gigantic space shuttle. But before they blast off to Mars, they will also play a role in NASA's Artemis program, program, which aims to establish a human colony on the moon. SpaceX received $135 million from NASA to fund their Starship vehicle, so it could be used to take their crew to the moon. So by now, you're probably seeing why Starship needs to be so big. They had a test launch and landing just this month when they sent the prototype 6 miles above Texas, making this its 5th launch since December. And unlike the 4 before it, this one landed smoothly and didn't blow up after spending a few minutes back on Earth. The previous one exploded 10 minutes after landing, after a fire burning around it wouldn't go out. But it's not all about having room for people or carrying a huge payload. To understand Starship's massive size, you have to understand the economies of scale. SpaceX abandoned the more expensive and complex carbon fiber material for a special alloy of stainless steel. The reason that works better is steel performs better in the heat, which is created when you re-enter the orbit at 20,000 miles per hour. Going from an absolute vacuum to a planet's atmosphere is like taking a glass dish out of the oven and shoving it into the freezer. The air molecules cause incredible amounts of friction and heat. While any other material would require heat-reflecting tiles, a stainless steel body will be mostly unaffected. SpaceX is also working on optimizing their whole process of manufacturing and supply chains to make sure the stainless steel alloy is as cost-effective as can be. And let's not forget, the ship can run dozens of missions with minimal maintenance, so the overall costs, in the long run, are reduced by quite a lot. Of course, the cost of fuel required to power this rocket will be astronomical. No pun intended, but it is offset by its other capabilities, which is why a bigger craft makes more economical sense. But there's much more to this than economics. Before looking at reusable rockets, humans mostly left space junk and decommissioned satellites in designated graveyards. It's just a waste, but now we're evolving and learning to clean up our acts. We started with inefficient fossil fuel burning transport systems, and now we're slowly moving to electric. Starship is the new way of doing interplanetary transport. We may soon go from having one launch every year or every 2 years to possibly having regular summer vacations on the moon or having commercial flights to Mars. But starting on the process isn't as easy as hitting a big red button and watching the rocket launch. There are some hurdles SpaceX will have to overcome, and it partly has to do with the massive size of Starship. Their test launches with this 120-meter-tall behemoth will require a new type of license from the Federal Aviation Administration, which involves many regulatory hurdles and an environmental assessment. Depending on the fundings of that assessment, it's possible SpaceX will have to conduct a new environmental impact statement, which could take up to 3 years. To fuel this giant, some reports say SpaceX has been tapping into natural gas wells and building power plants in Boca Chica, which could also prolong their environmental review. Does this complicate matters? Yeah, definitely. But Elon Musk is nothing if not an optimist with some very ambitious timelines. So, while there will undoubtedly be delays in our colonization of the Red Planet, there is no doubt that it will definitely happen. Think you'll pay a visit to the Red Planet on Starship? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and check out more videos just like this on the Space Tech channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.